Alrighty, greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to our Tuesday night live stream for week 2 of the 2025 fantasy football season. Over the course of the next hour, we're talking all things fantasy football related. Of course, the main topic of interest is waiver wires, potentially putting in some claims going into tonight, whether you do play in a fab system and or a continual rolling list, trying to prioritize the correct pickups, or potentially even just kind of stepping away from the waiver wire conversation to, potentially gain priority for future weeks. We'll talk about all things fantasy football. Again, as the days progress, as we get closer to the Thursday night game with the Green Bay Packers taking on the Washington Commanders. Again, we hear more and more information regarding injuries. Many of you potentially ask me many of questions in regards to trades. Where are we going? Who should we be picking up? All of that hopefully will be answered over the course of the next hour. I hope you guys are doing well. Earlier today, I did drop my top 36 running backs for week 2 of the 2025 fantasy football season. If you guys haven't checked that out, be sure to go ahead and check it out. Understand that, again, rankings are always subject to change. Even though I post the running back rankings video on a Tuesday, doesn't mean by the time we get to Thursday, much less Sunday, those rankings won't change. In fact, I can guarantee that they will in fact change, as there's a lot of information that we are still not privy to in regards to practice reports that over the course of this week we'll, of course, gain that information and it'll guide us in the right direction. All right, let's get into answering questions, shall we? Beginning with a couple of the super chats that were sent in really quickly. Just want to remind you guys, whether you do send in a super chat and or a regular chat, make sure you just include your scoring format, half PPR, full PPR. If it is a question regarding fab, how much total do you have? If it is a continual rolling list, what priority number are you? What's the overall context? The more information you provide, the easier it'll be for me to answer those questions. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Okay, let's get into answering question from Cinco2X. Cinco, hope you're doing well, my man. It says PPR. Would you trade Keenan Allen for DeAndre Swift? I need a running back. I have Kenneth Walker and Tracy as my running backs currently. Yeah, as of right now, I would say that I'm perfectly fine making a move of that caliber, primarily because, again, you are in desperate need of running back depth. And the current iteration of Walker and Tracy without Charbonnet, and the potential of, Charbonnet not only kind of claiming the lead dog role within that backfield, but additionally Scadaboo potentially in due time taking over Tracy, Swift would probably be a much needed asset for your team. Now, again, you could go after someone like Swift. You could go after a Pollard. There are many of running backs that you could potentially go after. The one name that I've specifically on multiple occasions mentioned over the course of the last 24 to 48 hours is Omarion Hampton. Obviously, it's probably a more difficult, potential trade aspect there, especially with the current, Keenan Allen that you're trying to ship off here. But in the case of your situation, yes, I have no issue at all making that trade. Thank you, Cinco. Appreciate it. Easy E sends in a question, says, my question's in the live chat. All right, Easy, let me see what I can find here. Says, I'm in a Superflex standard league. Okay, 3 wide receivers. My quarterbacks consisting of Knicks. We have Bijan and Jacobs as my running backs. BTJ, JSN, McMillan as my wide receivers, Fannin in my tight end, and my other super flex is Trevor Lawrence. My bench consists of Keon Coleman, Booty, Calvin Austin. Oh, no, this is not even your bench, is it? No, that is your bench. Well, I don't know, actually. It says Keon Coleman, Booty, Austin, Quentin Johnston, Tracy, JCM on the wire, Kincaid, JJ, and Tillman, Udaman. Yeah, so all of that doesn't make any sense to me because I don't know what Kincaid, JJ, and Tillman is. I'm assuming that's all on the waiver because I don't know who your bench consists of. As of right now, of the players that you mentioned, JCM is the number 1 pickup. Keon Coleman is number 2. And then after that, you can address the tight end position by going after a Juwan Johnson or a Kincaid, whichever way whatever floats your boat in that circumstance. But without a doubt, JCM, Bill, Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt needs to be picked up. Then Keon Coleman's number 2. And then Kincaid is probably 3. And then everybody else is pretty much, you don't need them going forward. Thank you, Easy. Appreciate it, my man. Yeah, I don't know who your bench consists of, but you're pretty much dropping all of them, I'm assuming, to try to go and make sure you bring in all the talent that is available there on your waiver wire. Thanks, man. Juice Vino sends in a question. Juice, hope you're doing well, my man. Says, you're the man, Drew. Are we concerned at all about Njoku? Yeah, of course. Listen, anytime the primary role, like the tight end kind of role, is being siphoned away from him, from a different tight end, sure, it's definitely of concern. But I will say, the way that they're utilizing Fannin as a fullback, as a wide receiver, as a quarterback, as a tight end, as everything, he is a Swiss Army knife for the Cleveland Browns just in 1 week. The way that they're utilizing him, they're going to coexist. So there are going to be games in which David Njoku plays well, but this still is very much so concerning because they're isn't like a commitment to, hey, you know what, we have to get Njoku the ball. Joe Flacco is currently on the kind of position of like, hey, there's so much talent around me now with Samson, with Fannin, with Judy, with Tillman, and Njoku. I can just spread it out to whoever is available and pretty much kind of take what the defense is giving me rather than have to funnel target a singular player in the form of Njoku, who's of course benefited from that in the last couple of years with not much talent surrounding him within this offense. So yes, there's certainly concern, but this could very easily, I mean, just think about last season, week 1. Isaiah Likely comes out, incredible player. We all thinking, okay, Mark Andrews is dead. Then Mark Andrews eventually goes on a streak in which he scores 11 receiving touchdowns in 12 straight games. You never know, right? I'm assuming that he's not completely out of the mix, but in terms of fantasy, potential, considering you have Njoku and Ingram, it's a little bit tricky because Ingram's currently dealing with an injury, and Njoku just showed, that he's probably not as valuable as Fannin if Fannin can potentially maintain the role and the target share and the target rate. So as of right now, how would I go about it? I'm probably looking to see if I can drop Ingram into your IR eventually if he doesn't play this week. And then probably pick up Fannin and just see what comes of it. You could theoretically start him, but I would probably just give it a week. I don't want to rush anything until I have a for sure 2 games under my belt of understanding, okay, this is a legitimate player. Now, even though, again, I do love what I saw on film, I'm not trying to just immediately plug him into my lineup because there's a lot of inherent risk there. But yes, of the availables, the idea of dropping Njoku does scare me. So until you could potentially move Ingram into that IR, you're probably just holding as to what you have. Juice, thank you. Will825 Liam Game sends in a question. Says, in a full PPR, 8 teams, top tight end on waivers include Goddard, Ertz, Jonnu Smith, Ferguson, Strange, Juwan Johnson, Kincaid, and Pitts. Who do I go? I mean, at this point, looking at the group as a whole, I would say that considering the London and Mooney injuries that have taken place to the Atlanta Falcons offense, Pitts in the short term has a lot of potential value there. Then second to him is probably Dalton Kincaid. Then it's Ferguson. Then it's Juwan Johnson. Then it's Strange. Then it's probably Ertz, Goddard, Jonnu. There's so many threats here. I'm not even putting in a waiver if I was you. If you have the top tier waiver, if you have number 1 or 2, I don't even put in a waiver. I just wait and I pick up one of the the stragglers that don't get picked up because you're playing in an 8-team league. I'm not trying to burn waiver priority. I'd rather just go up the list. Now, if you're playing in a league in which no one's going to use waiver priority, then at that point, just fine. Give me Kincaid and or Pitts, and let me move forward. All right, let's see here. We had a question from Go Bills who says, do I start Nix or do I pick up Love or Caleb Williams? Okay, so as of right now, Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos this week take on the Indianapolis Colts. Caleb Williams takes on Detroit, and Jordan Love plays against Washington on Thursday. That Washington versus Green Bay implicated total, based on the Vegas number, is 47.5? I think it may have been 48.5 last time I checked. It's expected to be the second highest scoring game of the potential week. Jordan Love, very much so intriguing, but what he doesn't provide, that what Caleb Williams and Nix are certainly capable of, is that rushing upside. There's a reason why I liked Caleb and Nix so much this offseason. It's because of the rushing potential. Now, I understand Bo Nix turned over the ball 3 times. It was brutal. I'm not getting rid of him as of yet. As to who I am starting, that is a fantastic question. I haven't even done my quarterback research. I only just finished running backs hours ago and posted the video. I'm now on to wide receiver, and when I get to Thursday, I'll probably look in the direction of that, the quarterback and tight end conversation. Obviously, you probably need to know now because Love plays on Thursday. As of right now, I would say I'm more inclined to play Nix or Caleb still over Love. Yeah, that's where I'm at. So if I'm potentially even rostering 2 of these players, it's Nix and Caleb still going forward. So I'm not even worried about Love. Thank you. Joel Garza sends a question. Says, my question is in the chat, fam. Thanks. Appreciate it. Let me go ahead and see if I can find it right now. All right, Garza, let's see what we have. All right, Garza, where art thou question? Yeah, so here's the thing, Garza. This always just continues to happen. Whenever you send in a super and then you tell me the questions in the chat, it just never seems to be in the chat. So if you can, I see your original super, but there's nothing typed out elsewhere because it's just kind of updated. So if you can, retype it, copy paste it, do what you need to, and I'll get to it as soon as that is in the live chat. Thanks, man. Until then, we continue to Miracle Robinson. It says you're the GOAT in a half PPR. Jackson, McCaffrey, Jackson. Okay. Jackson, McCaffrey, Jackson? Who's the... Oh, okay. You accidentally copy-pasted. It's fine. Okay, so Lamar Jackson, Christian McCaffrey, Bucky Irving, Cortland Sutton, Ricky Pearsall, Laporta, Derrick Henry, Jennings, Myers. Wow. And listen, if Bowers misses some time here, Myers' value is going to skyrocket. On my bench, do I need to make any moves? I mean, at this point, I don't... Look, at this point with Jennings and Myers as like your bench players, do you need to make moves? No. As of right now, you have no injuries. If you wanted to build depth, I think that's perfectly fine, but it would be going after players that are actually going to be of long-term value. I'm not looking for like a short-term answer in the meanwhile, unless you're trying to gather some sort of trade leverage to be able to make a move in that regard. But looking at the players that you have on roster, I'm really not trying to make any sort of rash decisions. Now, if somebody wants to go ahead and trade you Nico Collins or Malik Neighbors for Cortland Sutton, be my guest, right? But outside of that kind of a scenario where somebody makes a stupid decision out of just anger and overreaction of 1 week's performance, unless something like that is to occur, I think you're just holding, pretty firmly because you've got a really strong lineup there within those 8 players. But yeah, if someone like Keon Coleman somehow available on your waiver, or like Marquise Hollywood Brown, sure, you can go after those players, but Hollywood Brown is a short-term kind of answer that sure could like plug into your lineup and immediately play and provide great value, but also could be utilized for like, I would suppose, some sort of trade leverage to where you go to the player that has Xavier Worthy or maybe, Rashee Rice and be like, hey, you want this? Give me Rashee Rice, and just try to swindle people. That's pretty much what I would suggest at that point. Zay sends in a question, says, I need a quarterback. Do I go with Fields or Penix? Yeah, you got to go with Fields. Again, I've had Fields ranked significantly higher than Penix in my pre-season rankings, and I'm going to continue to uphold it, if not continue to move up Fields in terms of my rest of season rankings. Or is there another quarterback I should look at on the waivers? Thank you for the help. Yeah, no, Fields is the answer. If there was another quarterback that you would theoretically kind of pivot in the direction of, it would be J.J. McCarthy. The only reason that J.J. McCarthy isn't mentioned in the waiver wire video that I put up yesterday is because the video was recorded and posted before the Minnesota Vikings even played that game. So otherwise, theoretically, J.J. McCarthy would have filled into the spot even ahead of Daniel Jones. I would go with, McCarthy, Jones, and then at that point, it's pretty much like Rodgers, Penix, whichever one you want in a 2 QB league. Otherwise, I don't think you're rostering and or starting those kind of quarterbacks in a 1 QB format. Marco sends in a question, says in a PPR, trade Chase Brown and Rome Odunze for Sutton, Pollard, and Ekbuka. Look, if you're just telling me, okay, this is the trade in a vacuum and I have no context as to what the rest of your team looks like, Marco, it really is a tricky trade to make. In a vacuum, jeez Louise. In a vacuum, I could justify the Sutton side. But you would have to be so set at running back to be giving away Chase Brown to make a move of this caliber to where you're like, that's the only reason I would do it. Like if my top 2 running backs are like Chase Brown and, I don't know, let's say Chase Brown and Aaron Jones are my top 2 running backs, I'm not making this move because at that point, I've got Pollard and Aaron Jones, and it could all go really, really south really fast in the event of one singular week. So at this point, that would be the only contingency. If you're pretty solidified at RB depth, we can make this move. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and hold off on that. Robert Jameson sends in a question. Thank you, Robert. Hope you're doing well, sir. Says drop Ferguson for Fannin. I'm okay with it. Personally, I do think that Ferguson is going to be better in time. Again, that matchup against the Eagles wasn't the greatest. Obviously dropped a touchdown because of the unfortunate kind of ball placement of where Dak Prescott put it on him. Otherwise, listen, I don't mind the idea of rostering Fannin, but am I dropping Ferguson? If you have another tight end on roster, theoretically speaking, you're like, Andrew, I've got Ferguson and Tyler Warren. Sure, let's drop Ferguson. Let's pick up Fannin. Let's see what let's see what he can function with. But if I'm dropping Ferguson to immediately pick up and play Fannin, I think it's a little bit sketchier, to which I'd rather roster 2 tight ends to see what I can get out of Fannin before I can 100% commit to his future. Thank you. Manil Patel sends in a question, says trade Garrett and Kraft for Nico Collins. I would. I have no problem with that at all. Garrett Wilson, Kraft, as long as you have another tight end on roster or you're going to go ahead and address that via pickup, I have no issue with that at all. All right, getting to Joel Garza's question, who says, I lost Kittle. Should I go after Juwan Johnson? Kyle Pitts is on the waivers, or Hunter Henry? Full PPR, also Cedric Tillman, a way better play than DJ Moore going forward. I think in due time, the offense for the Chicago Bears will find an identity. As of right now, the identity isn't as clear as we may want it to be, but in due time, it'll become a little bit more clear. Now, if the identity of the offense is chaos, then so be it. But in the short term, I think Cedric Tillman could be of value. This is not like a long-term play, though. I think DJ Moore's got too much talent in him, and I think that they will want to try to get him heavily involved. I don't know what the deal with him obviously limping off of the field yesterday is. I don't know. Hopefully he's good to go, and it was just like a one-play deal. But as of right now, of the previously mentioned question, Juwan Johnson, Kyle Pitts, Hunter Henry, again, I would lean towards the direction of a Kyle Pitts, mainly because of the lack of health from the other receiving options. Drake London dealing with shoulder injury. Darnell Mooney, of course, has been dealing with his shoulder injury even since before training camp missed week 1. If there could be a possibility in which this offense doesn't have either of them come week 2, or maybe even further beyond that, because of a re-aggravation of said injuries, that could make him an incredibly valuable prospect. Outside of that, if that is not a possibility or you're not interested in him, the next best option will be Juwan Johnson, considering you're playing in a full PPR and the volume of targets and receptions that he has had with Spencer Rattler over the last 3 games of their careers together, specifically week 1 of this season and weeks 18 and 17 of last season. It's a strong enough volume, of opportunity to easily make him a startable option this week against the San Francisco 49ers. Thank you, Joel Garza. I appreciate that, my man. All right, let's see here. We're going to go ahead and we're going to scroll back up and continue to answer questions. Before I do so, hope you guys are doing well. Again, I'm going to try to answer as many questions as I can over the course of the next hour here as I'm live streaming. Again, a reminder, I'm trying to just hit the priority questions that are being asked via Super Chat. And then once I go ahead and catch up on those, I'll go ahead and join the live chat. Hope you guys are doing well. If you guys haven't yet already, do me a favor. Click the like button down below. Thank you very much for all the support. All right, let's see here. We had a question that came in from Weston Nelson, who says, trade McLaurin and Pacheco for DK Metcalf and Marvin Harrison. Yeah, I will take the DK Metcalf, Marvin Harrison rest of season blindly. I don't understand why somebody would give you Marv and DK for McLaurin and Pacheco, but let's take it. It's a steal. Thank you. Mano Patel sends in a question. Says, drop Bo for Fields. Also have May. No, I would rather drop Drake May for Fields. Bo Nix is the better quarterback. Actually, he's the best quarterback of the bunch as it stands. Sean Paul sends in a question. Says, I lost Kittle in a full PPR league. Should I pick up Fannin or Juwan Johnson as my tight end? I saw that Juwan over Fannin on the waivers, but I'm concerned about Rattler. Not sure why you would be concerned about Rattler. Again, you have to understand that the worse that Rattler plays, the better it is for his receiving options. The more times he turns over the ball and the more negative game scripts that they are implicated for, that means the more targets that someone like Juwan Johnson, who has really become his security blanket over the course of the last 3 games, will be. So in the event in which they're going to continue to throw the ball 40 times per game, whether it is Rattler or Tyler Shuck, in fact, if they switch him, it's still going to be a very solidified target share. Now, in the event in which, again, you're still not convinced, I love Fannin at this point based on what I have seen. And I think he's not going anywhere within that offense. I'd obviously like to pick him up and give him a week on my bench just to kind of make sure he is someone that I can trust week in and week out. But yes, personally, I am still of the opinion that Juwan Johnson, who was extended with a 3-year, extension contract this offseason. There's no Foster Moreau. There is no Taysom Hill. He is clearing away the tight end one, and of course playing a very high snap share, which has not been a common thing within his career as a member of the Saints, but now is being exposed to that kind of opportunity share, and he's running away with it. Anonymous sends in a question. Says, sup, bro? Team is in the chat. Might be got a few questions. Oof, okay. Hopefully it's there, because if you have a couple questions and you sent that in a little bit earlier, it may not be there, but I'll see if I can find it, my man. All right, Anonymous. Okay, so I can see your team now. So your team is a 14-team double flex, half PPR. We have the following players. Okay, so let's see your question. It says, can I afford to stash Burden or Tesla? I wouldn't even suggest doing either, because hear me out, okay? In order for Burden and or Tesla to be of value this season, it is going to require injuries. So unless DJ Moore and or Roma Dunze, Zacchaeus are going to get injured, Burden doesn't really elevate just yet, and it will take a very long time for him to do so. Again, it's the same kind of reason why Roma Dunze last season couldn't break out, it's because there was just too much target competition within the Bears offense. Now Luther Burden is unfortunately falling victim to that. As for Tesla, I mean, listen, when he has to compete with Amon-Ra, okay, then the newly inked contract of Jamison Williams, Sam Laporta, 10 targets, 10 catches, Jahmyr Gibbs, 4 catches, 4 receptions, David Montgomery. Like, there's just too much target competition within that singular offense. I don't think it's even worth it. Now, as to whether you can afford it is a completely different conversation. When I look at your team and it consists of Hurts, Gibbs, Kyron, BTJ, Diggs, Hendy, Palmer, Aubrey, Rice, Jennings, Burden, Tesla, Ollie Gordon, Spears, and now you're looking to potentially get either Fannin or Jawan Jennings because, again, you are in need of a tight end, theoretically speaking here. If I was in your position, I would very much so like to try to pick up both those tight ends, or at least one of them, and then try to pick up maybe Bretton Strange off the waivers to have both. That would be something I'd be interested in, and I'm getting rid of Burden and Tesla. I don't think it's worth it. Am I going after potentially Quentin Johnston for your team? Not exactly, not entirely. I don't think you need it considering what you have on roster, but I could justify the idea after going after Quentin Johnston. But I think if, based on the fact that I don't know who your tight end is and you didn't mention it, I'm going to assume that you lost Kittle or something of that exchange. So at that point, go for a tight end first. Quentin Johnston will probably be gone by then. And then try to see if you can pick up like Bretton Strange off of the waivers after waivers have already ran. That would be my suggestion as of right now. Thank you. All right, continuing on. We had a question that came in from, let's see here. We had one from Chris, who says, would you use your priority on Fanning, Johnson, or Strange for tight end? How would you rank it? I lost Kittle this week. Okay, so this is the thought process, right? Kittle is going to go to the IR. As it currently stands, let me look at the 49ers schedule here. I believe the 49ers have a week 14 bye. I just want to confirm that. Okay, that in fact is the case. So George Kittle, theoretically speaking, if a 4-week IR stint was to take place, he'd miss New Orleans, Arizona, Jacksonville, and the Los Angeles Rams. Then he would be eligible to return week 6 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So you need a tight end between now and week 6 to be able to kind of just be a top-tier functioning option that can blindly be started. I believe that Strange is only someone that I'm willing to start this week because of the Cincinnati matchup. I think Juwan Johnson's target opportunity share and the fact that he is primarily competing with no one for tight end reps within his own offense, while Fanning obviously is still competing with Njoku. Juwan Johnson is benefiting from the fact that there's no Foster Moreau or Taysom Hill because both of them are on the PUP, the physically unable to perform list. That designates that they cannot return until week 5 of the season. So pretty much Juwan Johnson is your answer for the short-term return of Kittle. Fanning, I do, trust me, I believe that there is a lot of potential to be had there. He and Tyler Warren now have the record for the most receptions by a rookie tight end in week 1 in NFL history. Him and Tyler Warren had 7 receptions each. Brock Bowers last season had 6 receptions in week 1. So there's something to be said about the potential of Fanning, but I'm still going to lean towards Johnson for that short-term plug-and-play, immediately he's going to have value in negative game scripts across the board henceforth. So yeah, I would go Johnson, Fanning, Strange in that order. Thanks, man. Oni sends it a question. Says, I lost Worthy. I need a replacement. If the available Johnston, Kirk, Schuster, Palmer, and Booty, who would you suggest that I pick up? I mean, as of right now, the most valuable prospect of this bunch is Quentin Johnston. Now, with Christian Kirk injured and I'm not 100% certain as to whether or not he's even going to be available this week, it throws it into a different conversation itself. So I'd ignore that. So I would go like Quentin Johnston 1, Booty 2, Palmer 3, Christian Kirk 4, Juju Smith 5. That's the order in which I would go about it in order to try to fill in for Worthy, who hopefully will be back sooner rather than later for your sake. Easy E says, my YouTube froze. Questions in the chat. Oh, brother. Oh, my God. Easy, if you could do me a favor and rewind, that'd be great. Because I don't even know how long of your question was. Okay, so this was my suggestion. I'm going to give you the abridged version of what I've said earlier. JCM number 1, Keon Coleman number 2, and that's it. I don't want anybody else. Full send those 2, and don't look back. Those are the 2 that you want. Everybody else, don't even put in a waiver for because we're not interested in them based on what you have on roster. Thank you. Alrighty, continuing on. I'm Gucci U Polo sends in a question. Says PPR. All right, let me see here real quick. Let me make sure I am not losing my mind. Okay, good. All right, I'm Gucci Lupolo. Says in a PPR trade, JCM and Debo for Achan. Yeah, sounds good to me. I have no issue with that. Again, you have to understand that if you're gonna buy a Dolphins player right now, just understand the implied risk that is involved. Once you can swallow that pill of like, hey, you know what, this could all go up in flames, and we could have Zach Wilson playing in just 2 weeks from now. Just understand that there's a reality in which that could occur. But in your circumstance, if you've got enough depth and these are players that are coming off of your bench and you're just tossing them out, I'm okay with it because I know what Achan's potentially capable of, and I know that the Miami Dolphins will be a lot better than where they were on Sunday. All right, Mr. Graves sends in a question. Says PPR, drop Ingram. If so, pick up Juwan Johnson or Fan. And again, I don't mind picking up either of the two. I prefer to pick up Juwan Johnson in the short term in order to kind of fill in for Ingram. But if you could try to put in a waiver for both and have them both rostered while you put Evan Ingram in the IR, that'd be great. Eric Nixon sends in a question. Says in a full PPR, a team wants to trade for ETN and Sampson for wide receiver. Consider Shakir or Tillman with Bigsby or Johnson. Starting Henry Swift with AJ, London, and Myers. So yeah, if somebody is trying to trade for your ETN and Sampson, I'm not parting ways with ETN because looking at your team, I would like to have him as your RB2 going forward. Since Tank Bigsby's been traded, I think ETN's value has significantly jumped. So where I am absolutely going with the Henry ETN exchange there, playing AJ, London, and Myers as the two wide receivers in the flex, keeping Swift on the bench until further notice. If somebody wants Sampson, that's perfectly fine. And in this exchange, I mean, again, I think you can perfectly get one of these alternative options, but I don't think it's a necessity to have to make a move of this caliber. If anything, I'm looking to try to get potentially a tight end improvement or quarterback improvement, depending on what you need between the two. Otherwise, I'm okay trading for Shakir and otherwise or holding. Thank you. Alexander sends in a question. Says, what waiver order from Jacoby, Javonte, Coleman, Rice, Sharps, Pittman, Keenan Allen, full PPR? Okay. So first and foremost, it's kind of hard for me to give an answer to that because of it. There are just too many good players, and I don't know what your roster needs. There's too much variability within the question. So I'm just going to go quickly, rip the Band-Aid, and just kind of give you my quick thoughts on the matter. As it stands, Rice is number one. So that's Rashee Rice. That's the number one pickup. Then I'm jumping to probably going Rice. I kind of want Sharps. Now, we'll wait on that. Rice, Jacoby, Javonte, Sharps, Coleman, Pittman, Allen. If you need to hear it again, rewind. Thank you, Alexander. I appreciate it. Joshua Wilkins says, I have Mahomes. And J Fields worth a pickup. Okay, so you have Mahomes and JJ McCarthy. Is Fields worth the pickup? I would say, yeah. I would say Justin Fields and what he is capable of accomplishing in comparison to the quarterbacks you currently have, obviously there's a little bit of a difference in terms of the potential quarterback play we have here, considering how much rushing upside and value that Fields presents. I mean, Fields quite literally scored 16 of his points just off of rushing statistics, 40 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. That kind of production is just too difficult to ignore. But in the event in which you have to drop a JJ, I would. But if you don't feel comfortable with it, you're not feeling 100%, then you just hold it as is. But yeah, I would move JJ for him. All right, Taylor B had sent in a question, nothing attached to it. Says check the chat. If you guys can do me a favor, when you guys send in supers, please make sure you attach it to the super, because it makes it real difficult to find these questions. Before I go ahead and find that in the live chat, let me make sure we're caught up on all those. We move on to a question from Dave, who says in a 10-team half PPR, Allen, BTJ, Worthy, Waddle, Gibbs, K9, Tyler Warren, okay, DJ, Caleb Johnson, Golden, Rice, Bigsby, Judkins, Ayuk. Where/who to upgrade? I mean, looking at the team as a whole, Worthy's injured, so you need a wide receiver too until Rice kind of returns. So I'm probably just looking to try to hit the waiver and see if I can acquire something that is going to upgrade that position, because if Worthy and Rice are both out, Golden can't be trusted until further notice, and Waddle's your wide receiver too in an offense that looked like an absolute dumpster fire. So in this circumstance, your most, I guess, needy role position is wide receiver 2. So perhaps you can go try to buy low on somebody, or you're hitting the waivers and trying to see if you can fill in a potential like Cedric Tillman for the meanwhile until further notice. Thanks, Dave. All right, Migs sends it a question. Says, I need quarterback. Trade Kamara, DJ Moore, Reed for JT. Kamara, DJ Moore, Reed for JT, JCM, and Williams. I don't mind that at all. I'm okay with that. Yeah. If the Williams is JMO, I think that's fantastic. Or DJ Moore, Reed for Justin Herbert, Benson. No, I'm okay with getting the JT side of that deal. But if you need a quarterback, like I can understand it. But in a 14-team league, who do you have? Do you have Bo Nix? Is that what you're losing your mind over? I don't think you need to go ahead and lose your mind over a Bo Nix or something like that. So at this point, if you want to make that Herbert trade, I don't mind it, but I would rather get Jonathan Taylor if anything. Lee Flores sends in a question. Says, should I be worried about Walker Charbonnet? Yes, I would be. I am worried about it. It's not a matter of like, should I be? It's a matter of you should be, and this is why. Until we get a clear understanding as to how that backfield kind of turns out, it could be a complete disaster to where we don't know who to start every week. One week it's Charbonnet, the next week it's Walker, the next week it's Walker, then it's Charbonnet again, then Charbonnet again, then Charbonnet again, then it's Walker. It could go back and forth every single week at a random pace. Until they actually show a rhyme and reason as to how they are functioning, it's going to be difficult to decipher how they are going to kind of plan for the future between the two of them as it stands. Easy E sent in a question, says questions in the chat. Mo Money sent in a question, probably in the chat. Okay, so let's go find these questions real quick. All right, hopefully you guys have typed it in recently, because if you have not, it is going to be pretty tough here. All right, Taylor B says, miss my question, brother. Yeah, look, here's the thing, Taylor. You got to attach it to the super, please. In the future, do that, because I'm looking for your question in the live chat and I don't see it. That's the problem. That's why I can't immediately answer it. So if you can, Taylor, if you have the question and you can just retype it or copy paste it, put it in the live chat, I'll get to it right away. We need to find Easy E. Nothing from Easy E. Do the same, please and thank you. Mo Money, are you in this chat? No question in the chat. Got to go ahead and type it. The other Easy E, I answered your question. JCM, Keon Coleman, Tillman. Thank you. This other Easy E doesn't need to keep spamming it. I'm talking about the other one. Easy spelled E-A-S-Y, please and thank you. Alrighty, let's see here. We took care of that. Mo Money says, in a 10-team PPR, 2 wide receiver, 2 flex, Dak is my quarterback. I have Amon-Ra St. Brown, BTJ, JSN, Adunze Worthy, and Jaden Higgins at wide receiver. Fields and Justin Herbert and Hollywood Brown is on the waiver. Okay. Fields, Herbert, Hollywood Brown on the waiver. Leaning towards quarterback. Yeah, you should probably address quarterback, but the thing is, in a 10-team league, how many of the teams in your league are actually going to go after quarterback? Yeah, look, considering you have Amon-Ra, BTJ, JSN, probably just secure the quarterback, because in the long term, it's the most valuable piece for you. So yeah, that's probably the right move. Just go, and again, if you're asking me, I'm going to tell you to pick up Fields, because that's just the way that I like to play fantasy. I like to have a rushing quarterback. But if you want to go ahead and pick up Herbert, I don't have an issue with it. As long as you're improving upon Dak, I think it's going to help you in the long term. Okay, the other Easy E says, half PPR. Would you trade Montgomery for ETN? I would. Also, if Bowers is out, I need to pick up a tight end. Would you drop Pollard, Chuba Hubbard, or Connor? I have Barkley and Jonathan Taylor at running back. If you can't drop anybody else, you have to drop Pollard. You're probably playing in a smaller league, which sucks, but yeah, Pollard would theoretically be the drop in this circumstance, which is crazy. What's up, Mikey? Okay, the final person that I was looking for is Taylor. Taylor B. Taylor? All right, Taylor B says, hey, Andrew. Hope all is well. I'm doing great. Just obviously a very busy Tuesday, to say the least. Says in a full PPR, I have my bench is Bigsby, Caleb Johnson, Wandell Robinson, Brian Robinson, Shaheed, Jamison Williams. Would you trade any of these players with Dylan Sampson, Quentin Johnston, or Kayshon Boutte? I would be willing to... Okay, let me see this as a whole. Unless you're going to utilize Bigsby as trade bait in an upcoming trade, I'd be willing to swap him for Dylan Sampson to get a little bit more running back depth. Outside of that, I'd honestly rather just have Jamison Williams and Shaheed I don't think I need to waste my waiver usage and or fab to try to go get Quentin Johnston, because I think what you have on roster is solidified enough. Thank you. Alrighty, we've caught up on all those. Hopefully everything else is good to go. We continue on from a question that comes in from, I think we have Lee Flores. We took care of that one. Again, yes, we're very much so concerned about it. The Motivational Man sends in a question, says, I have Christian McCaffrey. Do I trade James Conner and Waddle for Chase Brown and Brian Robinson? I would. But here's the thing. I'm incredibly biased towards Chase Brown. But securing the future of Christian McCaffrey with the insurance there and getting Chase Brown the upgraded running back, I'm willing to make that move. Motivational. Thank you. Braden sends in a question. Says, like my team, I have upside, but what moves should I make if I was to make any? I'm currently 1-0. I have Knicks, Achane Kamara, Neighbors, JSN, and Njoku, Swift, Hollywood, Judy, Judkins, Blue, Scattaboo, Adunze, and Thornton. I think it's very simple. I'm hitting the waiver wire, and I'm going to acquire another tight end. Whether it is a Juwan Johnson, a Harold Fannin Jr., a Brenton Strange, whatever it ends up being, if Kyle Pitts, Kincaid, if somebody like that is available, Ferguson, Goddard, Ertz, I just want another tight end on roster so that if Njoku burns you again, you technically have a pivoting option. You need to have one in the event in which something like that was to occur again. I think the idea of holding Thornton isn't necessary. I think Jaden Blue, there could be a discussion regarding that. But there is potential in which you can open up 2 roster spots here, go pick up another running back, go pick up another potential tight end. Shoot, you could even pick up a tight end and a quarterback if you wanted to back up Knicks in case he burns you again. But otherwise, there are alternative positions of like Neighbors, Neighbors, JSN, Hollywood, Judy, Kamara, HN. Like those are all solid. Everybody in terms of those pillars are great. Quarterback and tight end just needs to have a little bit more insurance as of right now. All right, Salmon Salad sends in a question. Says, trading Buka for Rice. I have AJ Brown, DJ Moore, Pearsall, Dobbs, Bateman. My plan is to pick up Booty and Quentin Johnston from the waivers. You know, here's the thing. I think Igbuka at this moment helps your roster greatly. And the value that he could provide to you in the short term, which is really half of the regular fantasy football season, weeks 1 through 6, the value that he could provide there could really put you in a strong position. Like, am I immediately going to make a trade for Rice? Considering your wide receiver depth, like, you can do it, you can get away with it, but it's 100% contingent on DJ Moore waking up and the position of Pearsall consistently being able to produce regardless of who's playing quarterback. Because again, the injury to Brock Purdy. So as of right now, I think I'm just holding. It's a little bit of a conservative move. Usually I like to go high risk, but in this case, I think it's too valuable to push right now. I'd rather just have the availability of him on roster so that I can just keep getting consistent production. Timothy McLoon sends in a question. Says, should I drop Luther Burden for Jonnu Smith or Johnson or Fanning or Ertz? And it's a 12-team PPR. My tight ends are currently Loveland and the Jets Taylor. Yeah, so Taylor's got to go. And I'm picking up preferably Juwan Johnson. If I can't get Johnson, I'm picking up Fanning. And I'm also dropping Burden. So I'd probably drop Burden and Taylor for Johnson, Fanning. In the event in which I cannot get both of those, I would try to get as well Ertz as the third option. Thank you. Marco sends in a question, says, Bucky Irving or Chase Brown rest of season? I've always been on the Chase Brown side of that conversation. I'm going to continue to maintain a part of that. So I'm still on the Chase Brown kind of wavelength. Pearsall or Igbuka rest of season purely depends on the health of Brock Purdy and whether or not that injury that he has sustained, not only the shoulder injury, but also the toe injury, depends on how severe it is. Until I get further clarification on the severity of that, really can't make a designation there, because otherwise, if you were to tell me that Purdy is not going to miss another game for the remainder of the season and the injuries are not going to negatively impact him in a severe way, then I would tell you Pearsall, because of the way that Kittle just went down, Juwan Jennings is dealing with an injury, and Pearsall is clear in a way going to be littered with targets for not only the short term, but for the remainder of the season. But again, if you told me, hey, Andrew, we don't know about Purdy, it's a question mark. It could be bad. It could get worse. Then at that point, I'm just like holding on to Igbuka like my life depends on it. Thank you. All right, continuing on. We had a question that came in from Reinhardt, who says, I got offered Rashee Rice and Montgomery for Kamara in a full PPR. My wide receivers are Sun God, Adams, Hunter, Ricky Pearsall. My running backs are Jacobs, Aaron Jones, and Javonte Williams. Okay. Do I accept and stash Rice? No. I mean, look, at this point, I'd rather just have Kamara. I want to win the next 6 weeks. I don't want to leave it up to the potential of chance, right? That's my only concern. Like, I look at your team and I'm like, okay, yeah, there's a lot of pieces here that are strong, but if they don't end up producing well, especially those running backs, like if Aaron Jones isn't as consistent, if he's not putting up touchdowns, I mean, yeah. Personally, I'm in the position to where I'm holding. Again, with Rice, there's just a thing where I could respect the idea of trying to go for a 500 record in the next 4 weeks here, or for the next 5-6 weeks here, try to just get 3-3 even and let Rice carry my team. But man, it pushes so much risk for where you have to guarantee victories in the back end. So you can make the move if you're feeling the risk, but as of right now, it seems like there's a theme to this. Anytime that anybody's asking me about a Rice trade at this moment for a player that is immediately contributing to your team at a high rate, I have a hard time making that move. Malik Allen sends in a question, says, do I trade AJ Brown and Deebo Samuel for London and Olave? It depends on how severe London's injury is. I'm not 100% certain as to the severity. Obviously, as the week progresses and once we see the practice reports come out, by the time we get to Friday, if there's a possibility in which effectively he's okay and he's not going to have any sort of potential re-injury rate or any sort of further injury to this certain shoulder kind of situation, then sure. Otherwise, probably not. I might want to stay away from that. But then again, AJ Brown's got his own hamstring problem, so both of them are injured. It's kind of pick your poison there, Malik. Barza Gaming says, do I drop Burrow for Herbert? Nope, absolutely not. Thank you. Let's see here. Austin S sends in a question. Says, I'm in an auction keeper $200 budget league. I got offered Omarion Hampton at $55. Sorry, I got offered Omarion Hampton at $55 for Etienne at $13. Should I do it? I don't know what that means. I want the call this year, but how far do you think they finish apart? That much of a difference. I don't even know what you mean. I'm so incredibly confused as to the question, because if you're playing in an auction keeper league, I just don't know what the conversation of Hampton and Etienne have to do with one another. So if you're just asking me to trade them, I don't know what the value proposition makes a difference with, but as of right now, between the two, I'd rather have Hampton. Thank you, Austin. Joel Garza sends in a question, says, I got offered PPR, Kyron Williams, Deebo Samuel for Chase Brown. Should I have them throw in Rashee Rice? If you can have them throw in Rashee Rice, just take it and just immediately accept at that point. Sway sends in a question, says the question's in the chat. Sway, if you can do me a favor, retype that in, because I can almost guarantee you it's probably not there. Just off of how today is gone. Thanks, man. Eddie J sends in a question, says Jaden Higgins or Tesla for Quentin Johnston. I'd rather drop Tesla. Again, there's just too much competition within that offense. Trade Mooney for JCM immediately. I'd make that trade in my sleep. Thank you. YB Picks 23 says, greetings, Andrew. Full PPR. I lost Kittle. I need a reliable tight end for the next few weeks. Ertz and Johnson are available. Who do you trust and how much fab? As of right now, I'm leaning towards Johnson. I think considering you're not in a desperate position, but there is a possibility in which the Brock Bowers manager may be also looking in the direction to pick up Juwan Johnson, or somebody who has Mark Andrews, David Njoku. They may be in the direction of TJ Hawkinson. All of these managers could be, vying for the services of Juwan Johnson. I would say in a 100 fab league, I am comfortable with the idea anywhere between 8 to 11 in terms of an aggressive standpoint. That is incredibly aggressive, by the way. If you're going 8 to 11% week one for a tight end of this caliber for the short term, I think it's incredibly aggressive. I think there could be a lot of potential for where people are going and they're dumping an even greater volume of fab, which is perfectly fine. We go for Bretton Strange and we put $1 on it. If anything, we maybe even just put 0 on it or wait until waivers clear. But again, if you want to go for the aggressive standpoint, you go for the 8 to 11. Otherwise, you're sitting at like a 5 to 7 point for a Juwan Johnson, because I think that is a nice conservative value point, because I think I can get Ertz for a very similar kind of 5 to 7. If not, again, I wait for Bretton Strange, and then I'm just streaming tight ends every single week, whoever's playing against Cincinnati. The S-Box sends in a question, says full PPR, 1 quarterback. I have a second waiver pick. Okay, very well. Which should my priority be? Replacing Nick / Stroud with Fields or finding a new tight end? I have Kittle and Kincaid. Don't need to find a new tight end. You have one. His name is Kincaid. You're going to start him until Kittle returns. I would go ahead and try to pick up Fields because not only are you gaining his value, but you're gaining the trade potential leverage of shipping off Fields in the short term to try to potentially get other value pieces at running back and wide receiver because someone is panicking about Burrow going 0 for 2 and having terrible weeks to start the season. They might want to come and buy and potentially give you alternative positional pieces there to improve your team. John Moore sends in a question, nothing attached to it. John, I'm going to hope that you typed your question in the live chat. If you haven't yet already, do me a favor and retype that in. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to travel there, see what Sway had to say, and then eventually answer your question once that pops up. Thanks, man. All right, Sway sends in a question. Says, use my number 3 waiver on Quentin Johnston or Fannin. Available. My current roster is Neighbors, BTJ, JSN, Myers. Don't need the wide receiver. Not wasting it on Johnston. Just looking at the top 4 wide receivers you have, not worth it. You have Thielen, you have Mooney, you have Hawkinson, you have Loveland. Okay. So at tight end, I can make the conversation to potentially go in that direction, but I would probably want to give it one more week. If I was in your position, I am not using my waiver wire. I'm letting the waivers kind of run ahead of me. I am moving up the priority list because, again, it's only week 1 and there are going to be more injuries to come. There are going to be more breakouts in the near future. And once those do break out, I would like to have the number 1 priority within your league. So in this circumstance, I'd wait until the waivers run. Probably try to see if there's any scraps to pick up off of the edge. But if nothing, that's perfectly fine because you don't need Quentin Johnston and you have the availability of 2 tight ends that we're willing to give another week's shot on before we go ahead and move forward. All right. Football, thank you, man. I appreciate that. All right, John War sends in a question. John says in a 12-team full PPR, 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 2 flex format. My quarterbacks are Dak. Okay, so I'm dropping Dak for Fields, says John War. He has Jacobs, Connor, Javonte, Harvey. Okay. Higgins, Ibuka, Judy, Austin, Booty, Warren. Any changes / trades I should make? I mean, as of right now, Javonte Williams for Amarion Hampton, please and thank you. Again, I'm just going to, I would just float those kind of trades. I just send them. See what happens. You never know. James Conner for Amarion Hampton, send it. Outside of that kind of a, potential move, Warren's incredible. Wide receivers are fantastic. Running backs are solid. Once you improve quarterback, you're in a great spot there. So there's not a necessity unless you're making that kind of a buy low kind of plant as of right now. Thank you. All right. We've caught up with that. Thank you guys for being patient. I'm trying to catch up to the best of my ability. Obviously, I'm incredibly long-winded on some of these responses because unfortunately, they are just incredibly long questions. So trying my best to, of course, get through those quickly. Appreciate you guys. Thank you. All right. Alan sends in a question. Okay. Alan says in a PPR, I have Fields, I have Chase, I have ETN, Lamb, Ladd, Kittle, DK, Jalen Warren. My bench consisting of JMO, Smith, Jones, J.K. Dobbins. Suggestions. Do I go for Jawan Jennings or Goddard? I'd rather have Jawan Jennings, especially for the short term of filling it for Kittle in a PPR. I'd rather have Jawan Jennings there. Also, Jones for Golden, trade good. Are we talking about Aaron Jones for Matthew Golden? Is that the potential trade that you're kind of throwing out there? If that's the case, considering you have ETN, Chase Brown, and Jalen Warren, I think you can get away with a trade of that capacity, considering you also have J.K. Dobbins. I'm okay with it. I don't love it because from what I saw from week 1 in terms of target opportunity share, it seems like the Green Bay Packers don't really want to use a number 1 wide receiver. So it scares me in that circumstance. But if you want to buy in on the potential, there's no time like the present. Eddie J sends in a question. It says standard 12-man league. I've got Knicks at quarterback. It says 2, Daniel, J, Rodgers, or Geno. Okay. So if you're looking for your second quarterback of the available that you just theoretically mentioned, in terms of long-term value, Daniel Jones has been a top 12 quarterback in recent years, back in 2022 when he was actually running for 700 yards. If he's going to be legitimate and he's not going to absolutely flounder, which I don't think the way he looked, throwing a 77% pass completion percentage, I don't care if you're against Miami. I know the Miami secondary is weak, but I think this is a good test. If you want to pick up Daniel Jones, let him sit on the bench this week. Let's see what he's capable of. And if he's actually legit, and if he can play well against Denver, then at that point, you know that he can play against anybody. You can start him. Pause on Leash says, thinking of dropping May for Penix rest season. I got Purdy too. That's got to be your own decision. I wouldn't suggest that. I still have May ranked higher in terms of rest season availability. Thank you. Eric M sends in a question. Says PPR. I have Knicks. Do I drop Brian Robinson Jr. for a chance at Herbert or Fields? I have Charbonnet and Mason on the bench. Also drop Goddard for one of the top waiver tight ends. Okay, so really quickly, just so we're on the same page, do you not believe that you can potentially trade Brian Robinson to the manager that has McCaffrey? If you don't believe that to be the possibility because your league does not really like to trade or they're not interested, then at that point, sure, you can drop Brian Robinson and go pick up Fields then or Herbert in that exact order. Then after you go ahead and potentially put in those claims, we are looking to try to get Juwan Johnson there for your tight end, Eric M. Thank you. CJ Rich, Boxing, sends in a question. Says, I've rocked with you since 1K subs. It's a tremendous accomplishment. Thank you, CJ Rich. Listen, it's been a long time coming, but man, we are incredibly close to 100K subscribers. Incredibly close. Slowly but surely getting there. I think, what are we at now? Let's see here. We are at a nice solid 95,400. Almost. Surely, but slowly but surely, hopefully this season, we can surpass that 100K. But yes, thank you, Rich, for all the support over the years here, my man. Thanks. Jason Sommer sends in a question. Says, I have Dak and Caleb Williams. How much percentage fab should I be spending on Fields? Also, my receivers are Reek, Evans, Devontae, Diggs, and Pearsall. Save fab. Yeah, look, as of right now, I think your wide receivers are okay. Again, it's a rocky week 1. We'll see what Reek ends up doing. If he ends up having a crash out moment, he's going to be traded to the Chiefs in a couple weeks here, and then he'll regain value. In the event in which, again, Evans will bounce back. Devontae Adams will be fine. He's still trying to find his rapport with Stafford. Pearsall is going to be great. Diggs is still building rapport. So again, a lot of old faces in new places. It makes it difficult for them to immediately find success. So just give it a little bit of time as an acclimation point. As for how much percentage of fab for Fields, considering you have Caleb Williams, and I'm incredibly incredibly confident in the idea that he's going to be a top 12 quarterback rest of the season. I had him ranked at 10 prior to the season beginning. I think, again, the rushing statistics are the difference maker. If you're dropping Dak to pick up Fields, expect to be competing with the Bo Nix manager. If that's the case, you're probably going to have to rip a solid, again, you're going to have to go aggressive. It's going to have to be anywhere between 15 to 18% in order to get Fields because they're trying to pick him up for rest of season. So they may even go beyond that because they're assuming, someone's going to go 15, so I'll go 16. Or they may assume someone's going to go 20, so they'll go 21. If you want to be incredibly aggressive, you'd have to reach into that 18 to 22% range. That's like omega aggressiveness. But I think, again, you want to save the fab. You have Caleb Williams. I'm not willing to just go all out on a singular player at this capacity as of yet, unless you were willing to make this pickup and then immediately trade Caleb to a prospect or a team in your league who you know has interest and is going to immediately be willing to trade with you. Otherwise, I'd probably stay with like the conservative kind of like 15% value point. Okay, Dashiki, Young, PB13 sends in a question. Says, should I be worried with Xavier Worthy as my wide receiver 3? I have Keenan Allen on my bench. I have Tyron Tracy Jr. is my flex. Should I swap Braylon Allen, Ray Davis, Demario Douglas, or Tootin on my bench? As of right now, I think Ray Davis and Demario Douglas are both guys that I'd be willing to try to go pick up players off of the waivers for, just to give them some potential looks in a kind of, I'm going to preemptively pick up players, see if they can potentially have another consecutive good week here, and if they can build upon that, go forward. As for Xavier Worthy, again, he is looking to try to rehab his shoulder rather than have an immediate surgery. So again, he could very easily re-aggravate the injury and then have to require surgery and be out for an extended time. Luckily, you do have Keenan Allen to fill in for him. Nick Lothard sends in a question. Says, I drop Garendo or Gordon for Fannin or Keenan Allen. I would drop them both for both. I am prioritizing Keenan Allen there, then Fannin second, unless you're in a desperate position for tight end, to which you would then prioritize Fannin. But I'm dropping both of those prospects for both of those. Garendo immediately has to be dropped, though. I'm not really interested there, as Brian Robinson is clearly the RB2. Bed Bosch sends in a question. Says, in a half PPR, 12-man league, I'm dropping Mims and Blue. Beautiful, that's fine. But, again, I'd like to keep Mims. It's just one bad week for Bo Nix. But, again, you'll see in due time Mims will be of value. Coach says they need to see more likely to miss 2 weeks. Who would you grab and how much fab percentage? Fanning, Juwan Johnson, Tillman, Giddens, Booty, Quentin Johnston. It depends on what kind of a tight end you have. I don't know who you have a tight end, because that really does make the biggest difference as to how much fab you're utilizing, and additionally, whether or not you're even going for a tight end. At this point, I think it also matters as to what your wide receivers look like. Like, are you dropping Mims because you need to try to go pick up someone to fill in for an injury? Like, I don't know the context to it fully. Bedbosh, I'm thinking as of right now, if you're in need of a tight end, you're going for Juwan Johnson. Okay. Again, like I mentioned earlier, unless you want to be incredibly aggressive and go 8 to 11%, I think the correct range is about 5 to 7. Otherwise, you kind of falter back to going after Fannin for like a 4 to 6% range, and just kind of ride it there. Out of like potentially dropping Mims and looking for a kind of fill-in option for him, I think Quentin Johnston's going to pull a lot of value and probably too much fab contribution. So I'm just going for Tillman and I'm throwing it like 5%, maybe less, maybe 2-3% at it and hoping it hits. If it doesn't, it's not a problem. But again, very much so depends on whether they need to start immediately for your team. If they do, then you put a more aggressive number on it and kind of go from like a 2, 3, 4% to a 5, 6, 7% kind of range. Binks sends in a question. Says wide receivers are CeeDee Lamb, T. Higgins, Pearsall, Igbuka, Worthy, Addison. Running backs are Bucky, Henderson, J.K. Dobbins, and Judkins. Okay. Got an offer for James Cook for my Igbuka. Smash accept. I need running back. I mean, as of right now, considering you have T. Higgins, CeeDee Lamb, and Pearsall, along with Worthy that'll eventually come back, and Addison that'll eventually come back, and currently looking at your running back depth, yes, I would make that trade. I'll take James Cook there. Thank you. Justin Michond sends in a question. Should I pick up Garendo as McCaffrey's insurance? No, Brian Robinson is McCaffrey's insurance. Thank you. Abram sends in a question. Says, I have Mahomes. Drop Prescott for Fields at a full PPR. Correct. Who should I pick up for Kittle? Juwan Johnson, Goddard, Pitts, Kraft, Fannin, full PPR. As of right now, I'd go after Pitts first and then Johnson second in a full PPR. In the event in which you can't get either, I'm letting waivers run and I'm just picking at either Goddard, Kraft, or Fannin, whoever's left. And I'm not wasting the fab and or priority for it. Next question says, I have Worthy, I have Pearsall Moore. Pick up Hollywood Brown or Keon Coleman. As of right now, I think Keon Coleman is the correct answer for the long-term rest of season. I think he will be contributing for you all season long rather than Hollywood Brown as a short-term answer. I understand that filling in for Worthy at a potential rate of 16 targets, 10 catches, and it is incredibly enticing, but I'd honestly rather have Keon Coleman if available. Braden sends in a question, says, you think drop Thornton/Blue over Scat? Yes. I think Scatterbo can honestly take over the job in due time. Thornton, I think, is droppable. Blue, again, I've had hopes, but I don't think that's going to come to fruition for a long time. To the Max sends in a question, says, sup, Andrew? In a 12-team full PPR roster, rostering Burrow, Gibbs, Achane, JSN, Sutton, Pearsall, Kincaid, Aubrey, Rams, Fields, Braylon Allen, Bigsby, Blue, Goddard. Yeah, we have to clean up this bench. Jets, Rice, and IR. Okay. Dropping Jets trades on waivers, Hollywood, Quentin Johnston, and Juwan Johnson. So considering your current tight end is Kincaid, I don't mind the idea of having Juwan Johnson on roster, but someone's probably going to beat you to it. So in this circumstance, if I was you, I mean, it's really just a matter of how you want to utilize your waiver and or fab. I don't know what you're playing in. In the event in which you're playing in a waiver league, I don't mind the idea of picking up a Hollywood Brown, and because you have Rice, and just using Hollywood until further notice of Rice returning as your flexible option there in your league. Now, in the event in which you can't start him because you have too much talent at wide receiver with JSN, Sutton, Pearsall, then you trade away Hollywood Brown to the Xavier Worthy manager in order as trade bait to try to get some other improvement. Maybe a 2-for-2 where you send Hollywood plus Kincaid and you get back a stud tight end, theoretically speaking. Like something like that could also be spawned from it. So I'm trying to go pick up the most valuable piece there in Hollywood and then either utilize it or utilize that as a potential trade leverage point for the given week and forward. Thank you. All right. Continuing on, we had a question from Braden that was a follow-up. Says, could maybe trade for quarterback out of those three? Let me go back up, Braden. Where is that prior question? I don't even know where your prior question went, man. Okay, let's see here. It says, could probably make a trade for... I want to know I have Knicks, HN, and then said could maybe trade for a QB out of those three. When you say out of those three, I'm not even sure what you're referring to because I don't even remember what the heck we talked about. Because when I looked at your team, I was like, yeah, your biggest weakness points are Knicks, and Njoku, right? And we wanted to improve upon them. So yes, theoretically you could try to trade, but I'm not trading yet. Knicks is going to be good. Just give it time. Be patient. Thank you, Braden. El Pollo 33 says Kittle replacement: Henry, Johnson, Ertz, or Okonkwo. Johnson number 1, Ertz 2, Henry 3, Okonkwo 4. Thank you. Appreciate it, El Pollo. Demetrius says, worried about Tyreek Hill. I have George Pickens and Stephon Diggs. Who should I play? As of right now, Tyreek Hill. Because I'm just as worried about George Pickens and Stephon Diggs, to be totally honest. So, yeah, I'd give him another role. As a thought, sends in a question, says PBR. I have Jaden Daniels, Chase Brown, Harvey, Sharps, Sun God, Marvin Harrison, Sutton, Pearsall, Tyler Warren. Is it worth it to trade Sutton for McLaurin for the stack? No, I'd rather have Sutton. Thank you. Anthony O sends in a question. Again, I had Sutton ranked higher in the pre-draft rankings. I'm going to continue to keep with that. Anthony O says, in a 12-team full PPR, offer Kupp and Ertz for Montgomery. If you need running back depth, I have no issue with it at all, as long as you have a tight end outside of Ertz to be able to, of course, provide you the weekly start value. Fantastic. You make it 2-for-1, and then you open up a roster spot on your bench. Hit up the waivers. Thank you, Anthony. Alex Songrass says, in a standard scoring format, I've got Kittle, Goddard is my backup. Drop Goddard for Fannin, Juwan Johnson, or Hunter Henry. Theoretically, you don't have to, but if you can put Kittle in your IR spot immediately right now, I think opening up a roster spot to potentially go pick up either Fannin or Juwan Johnson, specifically Johnson number 1, Fannin 2, Hunter Henry number 3, in a full or it's a standard scoring format. It makes it a lot different. At that point, let's think about this. Considering your circumstance, I would actually feel pretty solid if you were able to move Kittle right now to the IR, keep Goddard, pick up Fannin, and let's see what happens. That's where I would go about it, because I want to kind of like invest in the future of it. Now, as for a full PPR format, I'd rather just go Fannin than Hunter Henry. Thank you. Barza Gaming says, drop Burrow for Herbert. No, I answered this earlier. I'm not doing that. I'd much rather have Herbert rest the season. I'd much rather have Burrow rest the season. Apologies. Maybe that's what happened. Maybe I said that accidentally. No, Burrow is still rest of season top 5 quarterback. Don't trip. El Pollo sends in a question, says rest of season Fields, Herbert, Knicks. And flex Pearsall or T-Mac? Pearsall over T-Mac this weekend. As for rest of season between those 3 quarterbacks, I think I'm still sticking with what I have. Until further notice, until I can see multiple games in a row of Herbert playing out of his absolute mind, it's still going to be Knicks, Fields, Herbert in that order. I'm not jumping off of the proverbial ship in just one singular week of performances. I'm not going to do that as of yet. Half PPR, 12-man team. I have BTJ, Ladd, Higgins. This is Jesse G, by the way. JSN, Higgins. Okay. I've got Gibbs, Charbonnet, and Jay Mason as my running back. Should I trade for another running back? Pick one, T-Law or JJ at quarterback. Let's see here really quickly. NFL Week 2. I believe the Minnesota Vikings are taking on the Atlanta Falcons, and I believe T-Law is taking on Cincinnati. So really, you could go either way between the two of them. Obviously, JJ looked a lot better in that fourth quarter than Trevor Lawrence looked like the entire game. So as of right now, I'm okay with the idea of going towards JJ there. As for, am I trading for a running back considering the way that your team is currently being built? I mean, technically, you want to wait until, of the available receivers you have, you want to wait until Higgins or Ladd has a breakout week and then ship one of them off for a running back. That's what you would do theoretically. If you could do one already, if you can already ship one, like if you could ship JSN for Genti at this point in a half PPR, I'd have it done by now. But that's just a completely different kind of aspect. Jack Tupp sends in a question. Says, I'm dropping Chris Rodriguez, okay? Add Fanning, Dart, or Coker. I'd rather add Fanning. Dart, Jackson Dart is only a 2 QB format in which I'm doing that. I'm weak at wide receiver, and Caleb is my backup quarterback. I'm thinking 2 tight ends over wide receiver. Currently, Laporta, Ertz, Taylor. Yeah, so Mason Taylor can go. Picking up Fanning. Coker can be stashed in the IR after waivers run. Thank you. Keloid sends in a question. Says, in a full PPR, I've got Kyron, Travion Henderson. I've got Chubb. I've got Chase, Hunter, Metcalf, Ridley, Addison. Quarterback is Josh Allen. Tight end is Warren. Would you try to improve running back room through trades? No RB talent on the waiver. I mean, looking at your current running back situation, technically, yes, you would try to upgrade your running backs. But in order to do so, you would need to either break off Josh Allen to accomplish it, or you would have to break off one of your wide receivers. So until Hunter, Metcalf, Ridley, or Ridley, one of those 3 has a breakout week, you're not trading for one until one of them breaks out and then you can sell high on them. Thank you. Valk21 says, drop Blue for Tootin or Kirk for Quit. Yeah, I would do yes to both. I would drop Blue for Tootin and I would drop Kirk for Quentin Johnston. That's fine by me. Vaporous Plenty says, I dropped Tracy Jr. and I picked up Juwan Johnson. Should I start him or Ertz? I would rather start Juwan Johnson, especially if it's a full PPR. And do you think it's good that I have starting running back Travis and Henderson or JCM? As of right now, I'm not too interested in playing JCM against that Green Bay Packers defense this week. So I'm okay with going with Travis Etienne and Travion Henderson this week. Thank you. Rob P sends in a question, says, drop Dak Prescott for Fields. Yes. I have Bo Nix. Beautiful. Sounds good to me. RGQ sends in a question, says, in a half PPR, do I drop Cup for Keenan Allen, Booty, Quentin Johnson, or Austin? Yeah, so as of right now, clear and away, Keenan Allen is the most valuable prospect of this group. So yes, I would drop Cup for Allen. Thank you. Keenan Allen. Isaiah Hernandez sends in a question, says, Goddard, Kraft, Fannin, Strange, Henry, Ertz, Juwan Jennings, PPR. Of those available, the order at which I would currently structure them, Juwan Johnson, not Juwan Jennings, Juwan Johnson, number one, because of the full PPR format. And then it begins to go towards the potential of like a Kraft, Goddard, Fannin, Ertz, Henry, Strange. Thank you. Nel Santiago says, hey, bro, I have May, but have McCarthy, Geno, Fields, Prescott, Penix available. Also, Philly or Rams defense. I'll take the Rams this week, and I'm going to pick up Fields. Nels. For May. Vapors Plenty says, you think I should start Lawrence or CJ Stroud? I would rather start Trevor Lawrence against Cincinnati. CJ Stroud is not somebody I want to potentially start until they trade for a receiver, because it just hasn't looked good for a year plus now. Mano Patel says, running backs are Chase Brown, Tracy, Mason, Eckler, Brian Robinson. I know they suck. How much fab for Samson in a 12-team full PPR? I think there's an adjustable, again, the desperation for running back in your circumstance isn't very high. Again, Samson, yes, came away with 8 catches and 60-some-odd receiving yards and 20-some-odd rushing yards, and that looks like a great performance of 16 fantasy points, but man, that target rate is incredibly, it is unsustainable, pure and simple. Now, how much fab am I still going to utilize for the services of Samson? I'm probably leaning towards the idea that you're hoping for best case scenario for him to split with Judkins. And if that's going to be the case, at that point, I'm okay to spend. At this point, I think there are going to be some teams in your league that are going to spend over 10%. So if you want him and you want to be aggressive for it, you're going to have to spend like 12, legitimately. I don't like it. I'm not willing to go 12. But if you wanted to, 12%, you could. I'm more of the opinion, I'm like, okay, if I was desperate, which I don't think you are, I'd go like 11, 10 at most, and just hope that it potentially goes through. But that's aggressive. Otherwise, I think he's a 7%er, 6-7%er. Jeremy Melendez says, start one, Tracy, Adunze, Devontae Smith, or Dobbins this week. Too early. I'm going to be totally honest, Jeremy. It's too early. I haven't even looked at wide receivers yet. That's exactly what I'm going to do after I close out the stream in about 7 minutes. As of right now, if I was to potentially lean in one direction over the other, I'm probably leaning towards... For right now, we'll go with Dunze. Thank you. Vaporous says, is it good I'm starting Amon-Ra, Terry, and Ladd? That's a great trio of wide receivers. Obviously, Terry McLaurin, very much so touchdown dependent, but in time, again, it'll happen. Can you answer the second part of the question, please? Says Alex Songgrass. Alex, let me see where your second part of your question was. Says, PPR Hannon or Hunter Henry? So yeah, I'd go with Hannon. And then there's the second part. That's the third part. Also, drop Braylon Allen for Jamison Williams, or that's Javonte maybe, or Samson/Tootin. Yeah, if you have the opportunity of picking up Javonte Williams, that is immediately the number one waiver out of all the options that we mentioned in regards to your league. Alex, thank you. El Pollo says, currently I have Bo Nix. Do I spend fab for Fields or Herbert? You could, but don't overspend. Also, how much do I drop on Johnson as a Kittle replacement? I mentioned it earlier. If you think other teams in your league are going to go aggressively, you're going to have to go 8 to 11%. Otherwise, I think he's a 6-7% percent kind of fab play. So he's either $6, $7 or $8 to $11. But again, this is the thing. Even though I'm suggesting these percentages, that's how I play in my leagues because I know how my league mates react to week one. You might have people in your league that are going to overspend. And hey, let them. You'll just stream tight end. It's not a big deal. But in some circumstances, at some players, yeah, we want to still spend for it. Like in the case of you have Bo Nix, Fields and Herbert are available. I don't mind spending 10% on Fields. But I'm either going to either start him every week when I make that kind of a commitment, or I am waiting a couple weeks. If Bo Nix doesn't pan out, I'm then taking him and firing him up, or picking up Fields with the fab contribution to then just sell him, trade him off. Vaporous Plenty sends in a follow-up. So it says, should I drop CJ? And again, if you wanted to be incredibly aggressive at quarterback for like Fields, at that point, you're going 18 to 20%. I think that there is someone in your league that's going to do it. If you wanted to go aggressive, I think 21% probably gets the done deal. Vaporous says, should I drop CJ Stroud and get Penix or keep him on the bench? I honestly, looking at the upcoming matchups with the Houston Texans, and of course, again, he'd have to, man, Stroud, again, I didn't have Stroud. I think I had Stroud as like my number 21, number 22 quarterback going into the season. Until we get to Jacksonville in week 3, Tennessee week 4, those are the games that I'd like to play him in. I'm not interested in playing him against Tampa Bay, Baltimore, Seattle, San Francisco, Denver. I like to play him in easy matchups. But going forward, they don't have any. They've got maybe 4 easy matchups in the next 3 months, legitimately. Until they get to December 14th, where it's going to be rough. I'm swapping out. W Mike 1981 says, in a full PPR, would you drop Mason, Sharps, or Harvey for ETN? That's an incredible question. As of right now, wow. Okay. ETN is picked up, and I'm dropping. Sharps cannot be dropped. So then it becomes a question of Mason versus Harvey, to which I currently believe that it then becomes a question of the only way that Harvey or Mason fully take over is it because of injury. And when I look at Dobbins and I look at Aaron Jones, both, either one is old or one has had significant injuries in the past, to which it's a coin toss. At least I know Mason gets touches. He has, 15 rushing attempts, 16 total touches in week 1. Harvey obviously broke out a run, but doesn't even get receiving utilization. Harvey's the guy that eats the axe as of that overall question. Alex Ruiz says, in a Superflex 6-point per passing touchdown, rest of season, who would you prefer? Stroud/Rodgers or Daniel Jones? Okay. Out of those available, honestly, in a 6-point per passing touchdown league, I think the correct answer is technically Rodgers. Then it's a toss-up between Stroud and Jones, depending on if Stroud wants to wake up anytime soon. To which I would probably say he probably won't, because the receivers around him are not healthy for another consecutive year. So it's probably like Rodgers, Jones, Stroud in a 6-point per passing touchdown league. It says only allow 2 quarterbacks on roster. So yeah, Rodgers and DJ would be the answer, theoretically speaking, which, sheesh, that's risky. Currently have Dak and Stroud. Got it. You can only have 2 quarterbacks on roster. I hate that rule. I think that's actually that's not a good rule. But Rodgers and Dak, I think, are the go-to right now. Matthew Watts says, drop Mark Andrews for Fannin. How much fab? If I'm picking up Fannin, again, I mentioned it earlier, 5-6%, maybe 7% if you want to go desperate for him. If you think other teams in your league are going after him, then you use it higher potential. But in the case of dropping Andrews to pick him up, I'm not doing that. Because you got to remember, Mark Andrews last season was a no-show week 1, and then he went ahead and finished as, what was he, the tight end number 6 overall? We've seen this before. Harry Joshi sends it a question, says, hey, buddy, please answer question, thanks. Where's your question, Harry? Is it in the live chat? I'll see if I can find it right now. All right, these are going to be the final questions before I close out here. I do appreciate y'all coming through. I see Tomasi. I'm going to see if I can find that in the live chat as well. And then before I get to both of those, let me answer Nick L's question, who says, in an 18 full PPR, Nix, Gibbs, Alvin Kamara, Puka, JSN, Trey McBride, Bucky Irving, my bench consisting of Devontae Adams, Sutton, Swift, Smith, J-Mo, Loveland, Kyler Murray. Drop anyone for Igbuka. Yeah, Loveland's gone off the team. You already have McBride. Get him off the team. As for after that, I am then dropping probably Swift to pick up ETN. And then I'm dropping Kyler to pick up Fields. And that's good. You're good to go there. Manel Patel says drop Ingram for Strange. Juwan is available. Drop Ingram or Strange. Juwan is available. Technically speaking, you don't even have to. Okay, if you're looking for like the short-term answer, like a 1 week play is Strange. The 4, 5, 6 week play in the going forward process is Juwan. So you would theoretically get rid of Strange to be able to pick up Juwan in that situation. C Manish sends in a question. It says PPR. Trade AJ Brown and JCM for Travion Henderson and Sutton. I prefer AJ Brown and wow, if he's healthy. Okay, this is the issue. I don't know if he's healthy. I think AJ Brown may have been a kind of lackluster week 1 because of the hamstring. I legitimately think that's the case. Now I know that they played exclusively zone, so there really wasn't an opportunity for him to make much noise in that game. But in a full PPR, technically speaking, Travion Henderson and Sutton are the correct answer because of what Travion Henderson can do in the receiving game and what JCM will probably not be allowed to kind of develop in that capacity because of Austin Eckler. So Travion Henderson and Sutton is the answer. JD says priority drop Evan Ingram for Andrews and pick up JMO. I'd rather pick up JMO. Yep. Thank you. All righty. Let's get to the live chat. Let's answer a couple more, and then we're heading out. I appreciate y'all coming through. Appreciate the patience. If I wasn't able to directly answer your question, again, I've mentioned it in the past. Again, there's a lot of you, one of me. I would love to answer as many questions as I possibly could, but I don't just purely have the time to do so. Let's see if I can potentially find a couple questions that we were looking for. We were looking for Tomasi. Tomasi says, what's up, Andrew? Got Njoku in one league and Andrews in another. Should I pick up Fannin or other tight ends mentioned? Fannin's perfectly fine. Juwan Johnson's perfectly fine. Either of the two, as long as you pick them up and you're giving Andrews and Njoku another week, whether it's in the starting lineup or on the bench, just don't drop those guys. Those guys are not droppable yet. Until further notice, they're still on roster. You're picking up other tight ends and either utilizing them this week or continuing on with the current circumstance of having them as your starters and kind of playing it on a week-by-week basis. Thank you, Tomasi. And then we need to find Harry Joshi. Let's see if I can find it in the chat. Harry says, I'm in a PPR with my wide receivers, Neighbors, Worthy, Tet McMillan, Zay, Shakir, Mims. Running backs are McCaffrey, Achan, Zach Charbonnet, Ramondre, Brian Robinson. Kelsey's my tight end. I have the first waiver. The available options are Pitts, Strange, Johnson, Johnston, Bayshall, Gainwell. Thanks. I'm not making any moves. Keep your number one priority. Don't worry about what's available out there. Keep it for future weeks because you'll need it. All righty. Appreciate y'all. Okay, couple reminders. In regards to, let's see here, trade Nico or hold? No, hold. Absolutely hold. 10 times out of 10 hold. Pearsall and Addison for Devontae Adams. I'd rather honestly just have the Pearsall side. How are we feeling about Amon Ra? I think, or ARs? Is ARS, Amon Ra St. Brown? Is that what you meant? If so, I'm perfectly fine. Again, it's just 1 week. Tomasi said, forgot mines? What do you mean? I answered it. I literally just answered it like not even 60 seconds ago, Tomasi. Where did you go, man? I was saying, keep Njoku and Andrews, pick up Fannin in both leagues if you can, or Juwan Johnson, whichever one of the two you're able to get. Football says, sent message on Patreon your way, amigo. I'll answer that as soon as I'm done with the live stream. Thank you very much. Again, yeah, quick reminder. Again, if you guys want your questions answered, obviously I can't answer them all day via the live stream, but we could obviously do that via the Patreon. Again, this is a monthly subscription service to where, of course, you're not only getting all of your answers, or not all, goodness gracious. As soon as I'm going into ad mode, my brain starts, absolutely glitching there. What I meant to say is that, again, a couple of the kind of benefits from joining and, of course, supporting the channel in this regard, you get to answer, or you get to ask any and all fantasy football questions. You just send it to me throughout the Patreon messenger system. I try to answer that with at least a pretty quick turnaround. Additionally, you get the exclusive Patreon-only Discord server access, to which, of course, members of the community are there chatting it up, strategizing, all that kind of jazz. And then, of course, you get weekly rankings every Thursday and Sunday. So, yes, you can sign up via Betr right now using code Andrew, making that first time deposit minimum of 10, and also making that first time play minimum of $1 with a real cash play. And you can get my Sunday morning rankings every single, week for the remainder of the season. Half PPR, full PPR, all exclusive rankings. Or, of course, if you want the Thursday and Sunday version of that, you can check out Patreon, $19.99 a month in regards to that. So, of course, all that information down below in the description. Appreciate it. Okay, final couple questions here before I have to go. We had Jonathan, who says, I have DJ Moore and Roma Dunze and Brian Thompson? Who the heck is Brian Thompson? B. Thompson. I don't know who Thompson is. And Travis Hunter. Who should I trade for? Who should you trade for? This is the thing. You have to wait for DJ Moore, Odunze, whoever Thompson is, and Hunter to have good weeks. And when I say good weeks, I mean 20 plus points. Until they do that, you can't trade them. That's basically it. Now, I don't know what the rest of your team looks like, so I have no context as to what necessities your team requires at this point. Do you need a quarterback? Do you need a tight end? Do you need a running back? I don't know. So as of right now, what are you trading for? Well, nothing, because you don't have much value there until they have actual good weeks. Unless you're playing in a league in which you have smart players that know the value of a Travis Hunter, DJ Moore, or Dunze in the future. If you don't, then you're not going to be able to move them. Astro says, just want to drop this here. You always answer my questions, and thank you very much. I appreciate that, Astro. Okay. I think that's what we're going to call it, guys. I appreciate y'all. If Jonathan, if you want to quickly go ahead and share your roster with me, I can go ahead and give that a look and see what we can do. Outside of that, we're pretty much done here. Jack Peltier says, drop T-Law for May. I mean, you could. They're playing against the Miami Dolphins, so it works. Drop Golden for Mims? No, I'd rather just hold Golden. Drop Rico for Benson? Absolutely. Diego says, do I drop Colston Loveland? If he's your starter right now, I'm not dropping him. I'm making some sort of bench room so that I can at least open up and pick up somebody else to start while I can wait for him to kind of build a warm-up. Who's the best wide receiver waiver options this week? Depends on what kind of a league you play in. 12, 16, 8, 4. How many teams are in your league? What kind of a scoring format? If somehow, some way, Keon Coleman is available, Keenan Allen, those are the guys that come off the board first. Then we get into the discussion of a Marquise Hollywood Brown, etc., etc. Let's see here. Pearsall plus Addison for again, I'm rather just keep that Pearsall side because of what we are going to see in the not so distant future with that offense having so many injuries. Alrighty. I think that's it, guys. Dom says, okay, we already answered that question. You guys are probably lagged out a little bit. No problem. Okay. Appreciate y'all. That's going to be it. I'll be back. Okay. Matthew Watts comes in with a final question. How much fab for JCM? Drop Benson? Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to drop Benson for JCM. How much fab for him? I'm not even joking. I'm willing to put like upwards of 22 to 25%. I'm going to be aggressive with it. He's going to be the starting running back for this team, and he's going to get himself a lot of opportunity share. Now, a lot of that is going to be on the ground. There's not going to be too much of an exposure of opportunity on, through the air. But anytime you have the opportunity of picking up a running back that is the starter of his team off of the waivers, you should be aggressive with that investment. So yeah, I'm willing to go for that 22 to 25% kind of rate. Now, if you think that your league mates are not smart enough to know the value of a JCM, despite the fact that he had himself a solid week here with 80 yards and a touchdown, then at that point you can spend less. But I'm willing to be aggressive with that. Corey Miller says, I have Dak, Herbert, and May. Which and to drop? Which and to drop? So you mean like which am I playing this week and which am I dropping? I'm dropping Dak. I'm playing Herbert and just testing it out. Luke C says, check the chat. Says PPR, trade JCM for Sharps. I'm only trading for Sharps if I have Kenneth Walker and I'm trying to ensure that policy. Otherwise, at this point, I'm holding on to JCM there. 2, Njoku / James Conner for Omarion Hampton. Yes, give me Omarion Hampton there. 3, how much fab percentage? 4, Dylan Sampson. I'm thinking probably 7%. And Dylan Sampson or Juwan Johnson for the flex in the waiver. I have no clue. As of right now, it depends on Quinshon Judkins' availability. If Quinshon Judkins is available, at that point, we're just going to go with Johnson. Baker or Knicks rest of the season? I'm still sticking with Knicks because of the rushing potential for upside. Okay, Twisted Folk, Tony Lopez. These are the final questions. No more sending in supers. I'm legitimately going to turn it off. I will not be able to answer. I've got to go. Okay, Twisted Folk says half PPR drop Golden for Keon Coleman or Keenan Allen. I would rather have Keon Coleman rest of the season. Legitimately, what he accomplished in week 1, I understand he scored in a lucky touchdown, but in long term, let's go that direction. Thank you. Tony Lopez, where's your question, my man? Says, let me type the question real quick, Andrew. No problem. I will wait happily. I do appreciate you guys sending those in. The super chats are greatly appreciated. Again, they help support the channel greatly and allow me to continue to do this on a consistent nightly basis over the course of the season. So again, just because I'm trying to get out of here doesn't mean I don't, incredibly appreciate your guys's, your support of the channel. Again, it's what keeps quite literally these incredibly bright lights that kill my eyeballs. They keep them on. So thank you guys. I greatly appreciate that. Garrett Wilson or Michael Pittman in the flex? At this point, I would assume they're going to have to throw a bunch going into Buffalo. So we'll lean towards that Garrett Wilson instead of playing Michael Pittman against that secondary of Denver. Trade A.J. Brown and Ricky Pearsall for Malik Neighbors. It depends on what the depth looks like, man. I don't make that move. Unless you've got some crazy wide receiver depth outside of those guys, I don't know if I make that. Because you'd have to have, now again, let's say for example, you're like, Andrew, I've already got Amon-Ra, A.J. Brown, and Pearsall. All right, great. And I can only start 2 wide receivers. Fine. Send them. Give me Malik Neighbors this season. Okay, where's Tony? Where are you at? Tony Lopez. You must be typing up a manifesto, brother. Where are you? Drop Purdy for Penix. Unless he's missing this week, I'm not dropping him. Can you order this? Tootin, Benson, Sampson, Ollie Gordon. Yeah, I can order that very easily. As of right now, because I'm looking towards future value, I think Sampson, there's a discussion as to whether or not he actually is going to continue to maintain some sort of semblance of contribution within this backfield. My assumption is that the answer is yes. So then I will go Sampson, Tootin, Benson, Ollie Gordon in that order. Jacob was saying okay, so you have Jamar Chase. Pretty much exactly what I was referring to. So in that case, yeah, you would make a move of that caliber. Daniel Jones or Stafford? It's Daniel Jones. Best defense to grab this week, New England, San Francisco, or Dallas? It depends. If the San Francisco 49ers are going to be missing Brock Purdy this week, I don't even play their defense because I think it becomes a little bit sketchier. Because if there's more 3-and-outs and there's more threats for their, the opposing offense to score effectively, etc., Mac Jones could turn over the ball, all that kind of jazz. So right now, it probably ends up being New England and just trying to test that Miami, offense. Drop Andrews for... No, I don't drop Andrews. I just try to find another way to pick up Fannin off of the waiver. Maybe dropping somebody else off of your bench in order to do so. Because unless Mark Andrews is your backup tight end, you want to have 2 tight ends just to get Fannin another week here. Juwan or Fannin. Again, I posted a video the other day, yesterday specifically, in terms of waiver wire priority. I would look towards Juwan Jennings being a little bit more of a short-term option, someone that can immediately pick up and immediately play. Fannin's like the Isaiah Likely of last year. We want to pick him up. We want to stash him on the bench. We want to give him a week. And once he's proven that he could be of value for another consecutive game here, and he's going to continue to play a high volume of snaps, see a high volume of targets, if that can be proven, then at that point, we're willing to fire him up for the remainder of the upcoming weeks here as they are negative game scripts. All right, Tony Lopez says, I typed it, Andrew. All right, Tony, I see it. In a 14-team full Superflex, 2 QB limit league, my second quarterback is Ward. Quarterbacks on waivers that are available are Rodgers, Flacco, and Russ. Okay. How much fab do I spend on Rodgers or roll with Ward? At this point, I think you probably are rolling with Rodgers and try to go get him. Ward is a little bit of a experimental, it takes some time. And unfortunately, he's not like the other quarterbacks of last season, to where Bo Nix, Caleb Williams, and Jaden Daniels joined offenses that had actual good receivers. He does not have any good receivers outside of Calvin Ridley. And if Calvin Ridley shut down by a top-tier corner, we have a trouble situation. So as of right now, how much fab in a 2 QB league? Well, you look around your league and you think to yourself, well, there was a lot of dud performances at quarterback this week. Likelihood is people are spending a pretty good volume. So I'm thinking you probably have to spend somewhere near 16% in a 2 QB format to be able to get something like that off of the waivers. All right, guys. I appreciate y'all. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Best of luck on your upcoming waivers. I'll be back with my top 40 wide receivers tomorrow And I'll also be live streaming tomorrow night talking about all things waiver wire, or well, not waiver wire, but theoretically, I guess starter sits for Thursday. I'll be back with Thursday rankings with quarterback and tight end. Thursday live stream after the Thursday night game. Friday, of course, we have hidden gems. Saturday afternoon live stream 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Sunday morning live stream 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. You guys know the schedule. We'll be back, of course, live streaming 6 days a week here on the channel. But that'll pretty much cover it. I appreciate y'all supporting the channel. And I think that's going to... Oh, Duro Modi has to come in with the fun... Duro, brother. You guys. Duro says, Drew, I ended up doing that Lamar Ridley trade yesterday where I got Amon-Ra and Rashee Rice and Judkins. Now looking to trade Rashee, Coleman for London and Goddard. Let's see what London's injury looks like before we make any move like that. I mean, again, I don't think it's a bad move. I just want to go ahead and make sure that we have some sort of confirmed health from London. And if you can get a confirmed health, then we can go. Okay, hurry up, man. Okay, good one, Queso. Good one. Drop Kincaid for Juwan? No, I'll just keep Kincaid there. Domrock says, would you try to sell high on Javonte Williams? Yeah, I don't mind doing so. I don't mind that at all. Now, again, the associated running back of a Brian Schottenheimer offense has been a top 20, 24 RB for the last 5 offenses that he has been the play caller for. So there's a chance that Javonte doesn't go anywhere and he's this year's Chuba Hubbard. Fannin or Njoku? We'll see after week 2 finishes against the Ravens. Maybe both. Who knows? Jose Rodriguez says Brees Hall or Evans. I have Igbuka. Are we talking about who am I starting this week? Is that what you're asking? Because I don't even know. Like, I'm thinking about, they're playing against Minnesota. They're probably going to have to throw the ball a pretty good amount. Brees Hall had himself a really solid. I'd probably play, I mean, if it's a PPR, I'd probably go Evans, but otherwise I kind of want to play Brees again. Frankie says, I got offered Tony Pollard a 1-for-1 for Rome Odunze. If you need the running back depth, then it's fine. But if you don't need running back depth and you're not in a desperate position for it, then at that point, I'm just holding on to Rome. Salted Pork says, Pure Salt, Trey, or Golden to replace Worthy. It's Pure Salt 100% of the time. And I understand that you meant Tracy. I'm still going with Pure Salt there. Hey, Andrew, would I be overpaying for Warren if I trade Kelsey and Metcalf? I'm pretty good at wide receiver depth. If you're in a league in which you're stacked and you're like, hey, listen, I want Tyler Warren because he's going to be the next Brock Bowers, then just go for it. But like you'd have to be stacked at wide receiver, which again, when you say I'm good at wide receiver, then I believe you and I'll say, yeah, let's go for it. I was offered Keon Coleman and Ricky Pearsall for Sutton. I'd rather have Keon and Ricky, to be honest. The depth is a little bit too much to pass up on. Debo for Hampton. Sounds good to me. Give me Hampton. How much fab do I put on Hollywood Brown? I have Rice and Worthy. Honestly, you probably have to put 16 to 21% on it. I think 16 is like the safe, solid, like I'm going to get it. 21 is that I got to be aggressive because there are some absolute demons in my league that are going to try to pull this from me. Rivy Rip says, my league doesn't have an IR spot, so I have to drop one of the following to pick up a tight end for Kittle. Rome, Ekbuka, Charbonnet, Merritt. If I have to drop one of them, it depends on what your starters look like. If you've got better wide receiver starters, then Rome goes. If you've got better running back starters, then Merritt goes. Legitimately, which I hate to even say, but again, not all leagues are equal, and there are some circumstances in which you have to make these kind of moves. Andrew Mitchell says drop Gordon for Rodgers as Purdy's backup. Yeah, just to have that insurance policy, that works. Loveland or Kincaid? Let's have Kincaid as of right now. Dolph says, okay, we took care of that. We took care of that. We took care of that. Perfect. All right, guys. Duro Modi, we took care of you, right? Yes. Good to go. Perfect. All right, guys. Appreciate y'all. If you guys sent me a message on Patreon, I'm going to get to it right now. Outside of that, have a great rest of your night. We're going to go ahead and cue the double helix. And until next time, tomorrow, I'll see you guys. Peace. Okay, so I see that somebody else sent in a question. Let's see where it is. We have Grind Don't Stop 007 who sent in a question. Yes, I do see it. I just wanted to let the music kind of finish out. Now I'm here. I will not be turning on the camera, but I will be here to potentially answer your half PPR 3 starts. Pickens, K9, Tillman, Pearsall. So Pearsall auto starts, regardless of whether it is Purdy or Mac Jones this week. It's got to be Pearsall playing there. Now, as for your alternative options, considering I don't know what to expect out of someone like Kenneth Walker, I think I might just, as of this week, just play it safe. Give me all 3 of the receivers. Just give me Pearsall, Tillman, Pickens. And let me just hope for the deep ball, the touchdowns, and the potential that they can potentially provide there. So that's probably the way that I go. As disgusting as it sounds, considering how much draft capital we utilize on K9. Until I can get a better feel of this backfield, it's kind of like we have to pivot away for now. Rob Castle says, do I drop the Colts defense for Geno, Ward, or Bo? Bo are my quarterbacks. Yeah, I mean, look, as of right now, I don't mind having Geno rather than Ward rest of the season. I had them ranked higher in my pre-draft ranking, so I'll continue with that. Apple Season says Golden and Purdy for Caleb and possibly Thornton. I'd rather have Purdy and Golden. They were both higher in my rankings. Brian Wild says, how much fab on Tootin? I think Tootin is someone that if you're playing in a sharper league, you may have to pay a little bit more. I think legitimately, if we're playing in, let's see, it says full PPR, and the guy sent the trades. Has Kyler already trying to get okay, so that's a different thing. Brian Wild. Listen, if we're looking for the value of Tootin, which bothers me is LaQuint Allen, man. He played so much on third down that actually scares me. So where I'm not trying to like overinvest in Tootin, like if I'm gonna get Tootin, give me $3-4 of my 100 fab on it at most. At most, I think 3 is like where I'm gonna pull it right now. Just to not overinvest. I want to make sure I have fab for the remainder of the year. Andrew, there was a second part. Should I just roll with DJ Moore in my Superflex until Dart takes over, or blast fab on Rodgers? Blast fab on Rodgers, brother. Thank you. All right, guys, that's going to cover for me today. Until next time, I'll see you. Peace.